Okay, so this model is really cute. I didn't draw her, it's not my art style, but I am rigging her. So what I've got so far, by the way, I love rigging tails. Yeah, she's so cute. And we've got the head angles and we've got a bit of bounce in there. So what I'm working on today is the eye movement. I still have to do the back of the hair, by the way. I've just done the front, but we're just working on the eye movement today. How about that? So we don't have the right eye, so we're leaving this blank. I mean, I could make this into a little bit of a lesson on how to rig eyes, since we're here anyway, and we don't have a lot of layers, which would make this good for beginners to learn with, because the more layers you start adding, like the harder it gets to understand if you don't have intimate knowledge of Live2D yet. So this would make a good beginner's tutorial. Let's do that. Okay, so full focus, chat. I'm gonna go into full focus on this. So for the eye open, what you want to do is you want to create a deformer with the side and top of the eye. Now usually the lash is separated from the eyelid, but in this case it is not, so we're gonna work around that. So you want to take everything that's basically the top of the eye, right? Not the eye white with it. You want to create it a deformer for it. So you want to bind that to the IL open, and now this is the character's left, it is your right. You want to bind that to the IL open, and then you edit parameter, and you want the maximum to be 1.3 instead of 1. And then you bind this to the end as well, so it is visible wherever you are on this parameter. Now you go to the 1.3 value, you click this little X here so that you can freely deform the middle, and you want to pull this up. Now we're pulling everything up a little bit, and don't be afraid to use the brush to make sure that everything looks smooth. This is what that looks like. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the lower eye into a deformer as well. We want to bind that, make sure it is bound on the 1.0 as well. And then we want to do the same with this. We want to drag this down so the eye like opens up. Now we want to take the eye white, make a deformer for that as well. And then make sure you bind that on the 1.0. And we want to pull this up. Make sure it covers the whole area. There we go. So this is what it looks like now. Then take the eyebrow, make sure you make a deformer for the eyebrow. And bind that. And then raise this up. There we go. And now the eye opens up like this. Now we're not going to change the pupil size yet, because we do that in physics. All right. So the eye opens up now. And then we go all the way down to the 0 point. And we want to take the eye top. Usually you just take the lash for this. But what we're doing is you can either create the path deformer, which is probably easier, or you can create another warp deformer. What we're gonna do for now is a warp deformer. Make sure the divisions are a lot. I think if you have a free trial, you can't do this many divisions, but don't quote me on that. But this is just gonna make it smoother. So we're gonna make sure we bind that to all of the points. And then what we want to do is we want to go control page down. Now this will open a temporary deform tool, and this is the pathing tool. So we want to make sure you get the lash line in here. If you have the lashes separated, by the way, you can pull those down, but the lashes aren't separated in this case. Yeah, this is gonna look not great at first, but we're gonna fix that. Alright, so now we go in with the brush to smoothen this out a little bit. Oop, that's a bit too strong. Yeah, so usually you just take this, the lashes, and you pull them down. But since they're attached, there's not much I can do about that. Make sure you smooth this out sufficiently. The only thing I can do about this is just flatten this out a little bit to make it look better. Alright. Might need to be turned a little bit. There we go. So that's the top. Then what we want to do is rearrange the layer order, because I see a few problems. So all of this needs to be under the eye top. Eye shine needs to be under here as well. There we go. Okay, now everything is underneath. Layer order is important. We're gonna take the eye side, we're gonna make its own deformer for it. Make sure you bind it on every part. And then we just squish it. Now we take the eye lower, and this is already bound, so that's good, that's good. And then we squish this in as well. Now we want to take the eye white, which should have the pupil bound to it on the clipping. If you don't know how to clip, you take the Art Mesh ID and you paste it in the clipping ID. So, the eye white, you want to have that bound already, and then we just squish this down to be behind the eyelash. What you can do is just form it to the same shape. And this is just to hide it. Okay, so when the eye closes, the lower part of the eye goes up too much, so we gotta squish that down. There we go. That makes sure it's in line with the side. Make sure that doesn't stick out. And then we want to grab the eye white. We want to pull this out a little bit because it didn't reach far enough to the corner. There we go. It's looking good. And then we take the eyebrow, which is already bound, and we pull this down. And this is how we open and close an eye in Live2D. Now the second part is the eye smile, which is very easy to do. Alright, so what we want to do is grab the eye lower, and we want to make a different deformer inside of the previous deformer. This is important. So let's give this a lot of divisions because we want this to be smooth. There we go. And now we're going to bind this. This is a 2-pointer, by the way, not a 3-pointer. And we want to grab the brush and we want to squish this up. And it's that easy. We also want to take the eye white and we use the deformer we've already used for the eye open. And we want to do the same with this. We want to squish this. Make sure that this stays within the eye. It's that easy, at least in the beginning. So make sure that it's squished on all of the points. Alright, so now the only thing we have left to do is the eye closed while smiling. So what we want to grab is the eye up deformer that we used to make the smile. And what we're gonna do now, very simple. We're just gonna push this up. I am an idiot. Don't do what I just did. Absolutely do not do what I just did. That took my brain a while to process. So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to make sure we bind that to the eye smile. I swear I've been doing this for years and I still make mistakes like that. So that was one way you can do it, by the way. Another way to do it is control page down. If we can grab it. There we go. And then it moves like this. Okay, though we do need to fix things right now. Been debating on getting a PNG or 2D, so want to see the artist doing them and stuff. Yeah. It's a lot of work, by the way. I think PNGs are obviously cheaper because Live2D, the amount of layers it usually requires is insane. So this is an extremely simple model compared to the ones I usually rig. And this one has 66 layers. And this is the extremely simple one. Like, I would have preferred to see more layers, in fact. Hi everyone, welcome to the stream. Okay, so back to my little makeshift tutorial. So we want to grab the eye lower that we've bound to the eye open, and we want to bind that to the eye smile. The reason for this is because we want to squish this in. Probably use a bigger brush for that. We want to make sure everything is properly squished. There we go. Okay, and now we take the eye white, which is already bound. That's a good thing. And we want to shape it to the shape of the lash. And this usually, it doesn't take too long, but it can take a little while. I'm just doing this fairly quickly right now. I'll do the refining later. As you can see, that works, although the lower lash could be brought down a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Now we want to make sure that the eye white fits where it should fit. So we need to pull this down a little bit. Okay. That works, and we I don't think we need to do anything with the eyebrow. I think we're fine on that. Okay. So this is the regular eye open and closed. And then we activate the smile. And this is the eye open and closed in a smile. Okay, so we don't have to do the right eye on this model, because this model doesn't have a right eye. So we're good on that. Now what I wanted to do is do the eyeball X and Y. Right, so we grab the pupil. And this doesn't need to have as many deformation points as my standard. So we're gonna decrease that a little bit to save on RAM. Right, so we're gonna do the pupil first. This goes over here. And then what I want to do is grab the pupil. And I'm just gonna bind this without a deformer, which don't do that if you don't know what you're doing. But in this case, that's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna push this back a little bit. Create a little bit of a 3D effect in there. And we're gonna select this, and we can reflect motion on that. No, we cannot. Sometimes it does that. And in those cases, you just gotta do it manually. So we see a problem. It's okay. It's okay. I can refine that later. And then we do the same on this side. We get our brush out. We pull this back. And front. Okay, there we go. We're not moving the shine yet, by the way, because we're gonna do that again in physics. It's gonna have a nice delay on it. And then the eyeball Y, gonna basically do the same thing. We're gonna move this up, pull this down a bit, then move this down, and then pull this up. There we go. Okay, so now we select all, and we control 4. This is how you do it. You control 4 to synthesize corners, and that usually does its own thing. That's usually fine. Right, so after doing that, you want to create a deformer for every part of the eye except the pupil and shine. This includes the eyebrow, by the way. And I just call it eye move, but you can call it whatever. Then we bind it to the eyeball X, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna move this over. So the eye moves a little bit when you look around. We're gonna do the same for this side. We're gonna move the eye over a little bit. And then for eyeball Y, we're gonna move the bottom up as well. And then for this part, we're gonna move the top down. There we go. And then Control 4, synthesize corners. And this is what it looks like. So before doing anything else, let me turn the hair back on. And we're gonna see what this looks like in the physics settings. And this is what that looks like when it moves. Okay. Now we can do the eyebrows later, but what I want to do now is eye physics. And eye physics are very, very fun to do. So first of all, we want to create the eye size. And I like to do it from 0 to 1. And then have a 0.7 as the mid-range. Alright, we grab the pupil again. And we make another deformer inside of the one we made previously. Deformer order is important, by the way. And then on the 0.7 mark, we create another parameter point. So this is our default. Now, when you want the eye to become smaller, that would be the 1.0, sorry. And then we just decrease the eye size. Like that. And then at the 0 point, we make the eye a little bit bigger. Oh. And that's what that looks like. And the way to put this in is we go to physics settings. Oop. We go eye size. And I already have one set up for this. So the pendulum settings are duration 10, shaking influence 0.6, reaction time 0.7, overall acceleration 1. And we want to bind this to, let's see, IL open. And we want this to be angle type, effective 100. And then we add the eye size parameter we just made. And now we can check what this looks like if we have to adjust anything. So we close the eye and then we open it. Okay, so it doesn't have as much of an effect as I want, so we're going to increase the output just to see what this would do at 100%. Needs a little bit of adjusting. First of all, I want to turn the scale down a little bit. And then we want to make this a little bit less awkward. That should be better. Let's check again. There's a little bit of a hiccup there. I don't know where that's coming from, but it seems to be fine. I can refine that later. Okay. Also, what we want to do is eye shine X, which we want to put on -1 to 1 with a default of 0. And then we want to add eye shine Y with a -1 to 1. What we're gonna do is we're gonna grab a deformer for the eye shine. And we want to track the eyes. And then we want to do the same with Y. This is very rough, by the way. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna see what that does. So, eye shine X. We don't want that to have an input preset, but I'm going to put this on the same one, by the way. The pupil size, because we can probably use the same delay for this. All right. Now what we want to do is we want to grab eyeball X for this. We want to put this on angle, 100%, then output settings. We want to grab eye shine X. So we're gonna wiggle the model around a bit, and then we increase the output. And now the shine kind of follows the eye around. We can increase the reaction time a little bit from 0.7 to 0.8. Make it a little bit faster. How about duration 7? Let's see how that looks. Okay, yeah. That looks good. I might want to 0.85. Have it a little bit faster. Okay, yep, that works. And then we want to duplicate this. And we want to say this is eye shine Y now. So for input settings, we need to find the eyeball Y. And for output settings, we need to find eye shine Y. And then it'll do the same with looking up and down. Ooh, thank you for the stretch and hydrate. Okay, so we're getting somewhere with the eye physics now. This is gonna become a little bit more complicated than it is right now. Okay. So the next thing we want to implement in this is pupil bounce. And since we're gonna put this on a pendulum, we're gonna say this is pupil bounce 1. And we can just leave it -1 to 1. But I am going to blend shape on this. And then we want to say pupil bounce 2. You don't have to blend shape on this, by the way. I just like to do it. Okay. And then we create another deformer for pupil. Just keep in mind, when in doubt, add more deformers. So we created a deformer for the pupil here. And I'd like to have more divisions for this. Just to make it look smoother. So we want to create pupil bounce 1. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna increase the size of this brush. And we're gonna stretch it like this. And then for the -1 point, we're gonna squish. Stretch and squish. And then for pupil bounce 2, we're gonna do the same thing essentially. We're gonna stretch, but this time we're stretching horizontally. Stretch and squish. And that should work together. Now we're gonna create eye shine bounce 1. This is another one that's going to be on a pendulum. Also, if you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, you can just copy the name and it'll be easier. And then we have number 2 here. Oh, I forgot to do blend shape. There we go. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to create another deformer for the eye shine bounce. And we're gonna do a regular up and down bounce for this. For this one, we're gonna do side to side and also slightly rotate it. So this is gonna be number 2. Okay, so we're gonna see what that looks like now. Physics settings. We want to say eye bounce X. This is not an X and Y. Just eye bounce. Eye bounce is fine. Okay. So, which one should we put it on? The regular hair double pendulum will work with a few minor tweaks. Okay. So we want to find eye open. This is gonna be position 100. All right, and then we add what we just created, the pupil bounce and shine bounce. Make sure these are on the correct pendulums. We want 1 on pendulum 1, 2 on pendulum 2. And then we're gonna see how effective this is. Too effective, way too effective. So we're gonna decrease output on this. And this is the eye bounce or pupil bounce. There we go. Okay, now one last thing I want to do for the eye bounce is an entire eye bounce. Just the full bounce of the eye. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say eye bounce or lash bounce. Either way. Okay, so let's do that on a single, but you can upgrade that to a pendulum. So what I want to do is we're gonna leave the pupil alone and we're gonna go into eye move. We're gonna leave the eyebrow alone. We're gonna grab these 3. This is the lash up, lash side, lash down, and eye white, by the way. Those are the layers we're grabbing. And we're gonna say this is the lash bounce, just so I know what's going on here. Okay. So I'm gonna increase the divisions on this. And what I'm going to do is... Oh, it's not the right one. Open this up. And then close it down. This is the lash bounce. And if you have like the lashes separated, you could put that on the second pendulum. So let's say lash bounce 2. And while it doesn't really matter on this model, I can make a few adjustments. Just like this. And then that moves. And then we synthesize corners because I didn't do blend shape on this. So we're gonna go back into physics settings. And we're still on the eye bounce and we're gonna add those 2. Okay, so lash bounce 2. Make sure this is on the correct one. We're gonna copy the scale. There we go. Okay. And this is how the eye bounces now. And that is how you create eye movement in Live2D. This is like the most simple method possible. The more physics you put in, the smoother it's gonna look, obviously. But yeah, that's how you do that. The most simple method possible.